Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode here on Cluiche. This week we are talking about the official GAA All-Stars for both men's Gaelic football and hurling, including the footballer and hurler of the year, young footballer and young hurler of the year. And then we've some big results from the club championships, including Ballygunner marching on, including Tinahilly knocking Portarlington out in the football. So we've got a lot to dive into. I'm Séamus Brady from Cluiche, joined by Matthew Hurley of the Gaelic Statsman, and you are watching the Cluiche Weekend Review Show. Let's go. Yes, everyone, welcome back to another episode on Cluiche, another weekend review. Matthew, welcome back to the show once again. We've about 1 million shows now done in the last 2 months, it feels like, but we're trudging through the club championship anyway. A big weekend. Ballygunner marching on, as I mentioned in my title, and some big shocks as well, including Tinahilly's win over Portarlington. Definitely didn't see that one coming.
Didn't at all, no, and thanks for having me on again, Séamus. Yeah, it's an interesting weekend in the sense that it isn't overloaded with loads of fixtures, particularly in the men's game now. Like, I've started on my Instagram page now mentioning the LGFA and Camogie games because I have room, basically, and it's absolutely brilliant to see you have intermediate and junior. Another great story this weekend, obviously, Barcelona Gales winning in Kilkenny. That was a magnificent story, the first ever European side to win in the Leinster Championship in junior level. It's a brilliant achievement, and you have the likes of Power Scales still in the LGFA Junior Championship as well, and later on down the line against Cluiche Strandhill. So it's great to see GA kind of being shown across the globe with cities like Barcelona and like Paris as well. Plus, there was brilliant games up and down the country in this senior championship. So you mentioned Ballygunner. There was other games there as well. The Wexford hurling final, which St. Martin's won, probably a shock to some people, given St. Anne's Rahangans probably not over-reliant on one player, where St. Martin's were over-reliant on one player, Rory O'Connor, moving into the final. But to be honest, it didn't hamper them one bit with him scoring 11 points today. So look, it was a brilliant performance by him. But yeah, some brilliant stories up and down the weekend. And the club championship is going full into gear now. And also the All-Stars. There are some interesting calls, and I'm sure we'll get into it. There's been a lot of TikToks going around, GA related, not GA related, about the nominees and things like that. But look, I'm sure we'll get into it now.
Yes, we certainly will. That's the first topic on the agenda, the 2024 GAA All-Stars, the official All-Star selection. Obviously, everybody picked their All-Stars very much straight after the All-Ireland finals. We finally got them in November. The All-Stars Championship was such a long time ago. It was mad looking at the highlights being like, wow, that feels like another lifetime ago, July. But the official team, there are some picks that I like there. And I'm sure anybody watching, you've seen the team. There's some picks I really like in there. Niall Morgan is a pick in goal that I actually really like. Now, interestingly enough, I didn't pick Morgan in my team. But Morgan's form, him personally, was amazing. Every game that Niall Morgan played, he was outstanding. I don't think he made any mistakes throughout the entire season. And then even you look at something as recently as the FRC games, the interprovincial games in Croke Park, Morgan had an outstanding game for Ulster in both of those contests, came up and kicked the point from outside the 40-metre arc. Like, in terms of a goalkeeper, he is the full package. So I really liked him in goal. Craig Lennon from Louth, obviously making history, only their second ever All-Star after Paddy Keenan in 2010. And then as for the forwards, I don't really see any big calls there that I personally would disagree with. I went with the exact same 6 forwards, barring I had Sam O'Roy from Louth in place of Conor Turbot from Armagh, more or less based off Turbot's disappointing enough by his own standards, I would think, his final performance. Everything else in the team I'm cool with. Everything else in the team I'm cool with. What would you be on that?
Interestingly, I picked the 15 about a day or two maybe after the game between Armagh and Galway, and I agreed with 13 of the picks. I didn't agree with 2. So the picks I didn't agree with was Niall Morgan in goal. I would have put Blaine Hughes in the goal. I could see why Niall Morgan been picked. Yeah. I understand, first of all, completely why Niall Morgan got picked. He's a great attacking outlet. And even I put up stats on Twitter, and Kevin Kennedy said, I'd know the scoring stats, which is a great compliment from Kevin, to be fair to him. He was having this kind of debate with an Armagh fan, saying, well, Blaine Hughes has scored a good lot of points. That was her impression of it anyway. And Kevin was saying, Matt might show you how much Niall Morgan has scored. And I calculated throughout the whole season, league and championship, Niall Morgan scored 14 points. Blaine Hughes scored 2. I know goalkeeping is not particularly about that, but it's the way the game's going. Because of the FRC trial games, they're getting more attacking into goalkeepers. And I feel like if you're going down that pathway, Niall Morgan is the right call. However, Blaine Hughes, he only conceded a goal in 3 games across league and championship this season. And to not get an All-Star. Niall Morgan, again, outstanding year. But what more does Blaine Hughes have to do to get one? Because that was an outstanding year from his standpoint. You have the kickouts as well. The kickout strategy that Armagh had throughout the whole season was outstanding. And Blaine Hughes didn't put a foot wrong. And he won the All-Ireland as well. So it seems a bit dodgy that he didn't get one, in my honest opinion. Then the other pick that I would have had, Aaron McKay in instead of Aidan Farker. Now, I deviated a bit. I would have put Patrick Morgan at wing back. I would have put Craig Lennon centre back, Barry McCambridge at corner, and then I would have put Aaron McKay at full back. But then again, I could see why Aidan Farker's been picked. One of the two I didn't mind at all. Aaron McKay could feel very hard done by and not getting an All-Star, but he's had an outstanding year nonetheless. So is Aidan Farker. Craig Lennon, I did pick him from the very off. I picked him. You didn't. No, I picked him.
I had Farker centre back, Mogan left half, McCambridge in the corner, and McKay at full.
Yeah. I had Craig Lennon simply because he was in the top 10 scores from play throughout the championship. He scored 4 goals in the championship this season as a wing back. And I will say this, it hurts me to say this because I've watched Louth so many times because Cork lost twice to them. That happened this year. But I've seen Louth, and the most influential player, in my honest opinion now, this year wasn't Mulroy for them. It was Craig Lennon, because he was orchestrating it from a half-back. He was moving up and down the field. He was energising the Louth team every time they went in attack, and then in defence, he was outstanding. He was kind of that cog that Louth needed throughout the whole season. So I'm absolutely delighted that he got it, and he deserves all the recognition that he's got. So Craig Lennon, I would have picked him as well. The midfield and the forwards, funny enough, were the exact same as me. In positions-wise as well, the exact same. But then again, you look at the forwards, for example, Oisin Connaughton, John Maher and Rian O'Neill in the half-forward line. They weren't in the top 10 scores for play or overall in the championship. Don't get me wrong, they absolutely deserve to be there, and I would have said so as well. But it probably epitomised the way Gaelic football has gone this season. It's been very, very pragmatic. It's been very defensive. And there's not really been a whole load of attacking play this season. Like Rob Finnerty's in it, fair enough. Oisin Gallen is. Conor Turbot got 100% shot accuracy in most of his games this season, granted. But I'll put this tweet as well about the across the board in hurling and football as well. There was 4 top scorers from play and overall in hurling and football. Only one of the top scorers got an All-Star, David Fitzgerald. Patrick Horgan, Ryan O'Donoghue and Conor O'Halloran didn't get an All-Star. Does that kind of indicate that scoring has a less kind of relevance in terms of All-Stars now, where it would have had a big influence in the past?
It's a really good point. I think definitely when you look at a player like John Maher, for example, I'm not using this to knock him at all, but like John Maher didn't do a whole heap of scoring for Galway. It was just how effective he was around the middle, just how important he was at moving Galway from defence into attack, and he was always a link man, and he was involved in everything good that Galway did. I would look at Barry McCambridge exactly the same, like a defender. So I feel like you have to take this as what it is. Like scoring obviously is always going to be important. You know, it is the difference maker. But I do agree with you. I think when you look at someone, I feel like a lot of people have this consensus of, you know, Horgan could have a terrible game for Cork and he'd still probably rack up 7 points or 8 points because of the freeze. Ryan O'Donoghue could have a terrible game for Mayo and he'd still probably rack up 4 or 5 points because of free kicks. So people are aware of that now. People, like most free takers have got so good that if you foul them anywhere inside the percentage shooting zone, as it's called, they mostly score. So I feel like people are quite aware of that, so that they don't really fall for the huge bait when it's kind of like, oh, Horgan got this or Ryan O'Donoghue scored this. They more now look at what has that person scored from play. Who is the top scorers from play? Because, you know, you could take Horgan off the freeze and give them to someone else, and they would have had a much bigger tally in 2024 than they ended up with, like a Conor Lehan or someone like that. Or in the football, Mayo could have given the free kicks to someone else, given it back to Cillian O'Connor, and he would have had a huge tally for the year. So the scoring from play is the thing that I think most people look at. And then you look at Craig Lennon, as you said, who scored 4 goals from play, from wing back. Not everybody is going to be capable of doing that. So I think that's why you're looking at that. And even then, in, you know, going back a few years, Lee Keegan was always lauded for his attacking threat. Jack McCaffrey the same, Gavin White the same, James McCarthy the same. So yeah, I think more now people don't really care too much when it comes to All-Stars about free takers or perceived free takers. Obviously players like Horgan have so much more to his game, but people do value more what you've done from play, I think, to answer your question.
I'm looking at the top scorers from play in the football, just to stick for that for a minute. The top scorer from play this year was Conor O'Halloran, and he didn't get one. He didn't get an All-Star. Maybe that's because Dublin went out in the quarterfinals.
It is.
And maybe it's because Dublin got most of their scores in the Leinster Championship, including Con, and he didn't perform once it came to the crunch time in the quarterfinals. But the next 4 top scorers from play, the next 5, the next 6, because they were all level in 4th place. You have Paul Conroy in 2nd place on 216. And we'll talk about, obviously, him getting player of the year as well. Deserved. As well as that, he would have been joint top scorer from play if it wasn't for Joe McElroy's block towards the end of it as well in the All-Ireland final. So, absolutely deserved All-Star for Paul Conroy. Conor Turbitt, I was actually shocked that initially that you wouldn't have Conor Turbitt in your team. He finished 3rd from play with 3 goals and 12 points. So you can say that Conor Turbitt probably did deserve it. Then the next, if you Rob Finnerty got 116, Oisin Gallen 116, Craig Lennon with 4 goals and 7 points. Ryan O'Donoghue was joint 4th, got 116. I know Mayo went out against Derry in the preliminary round of the quarterfinals, but if you're looking at it from an individual standpoint, we looked at Niall Morgan from an individual standpoint. His teammates didn't stand up at all for Tyrone. Is there an argument that Ryan O'Donoghue deserves one for Mayo? Because his teammates arguably didn't stand up for him. He was their top scorer from play and overall. He got 116 from play as well. He nailed nearly every free that he had this season. So is there an argument that Ryan O'Donoghue could feel hard done by looking at this? I nearly put him on my team, but then I thought about Oisin Connaughton and the influence that he had later on in the year for Armagh, especially in the 3 games against Roscommon, Kerry and Galway. So that kind of got Ryan O'Donoghue out, but I still felt a bit bad from leaving him out on that. And then to round off the list from top scorers from play, Dermot Murtagh, Conor Costello and David Clifford. None of the 3 got him. So there are still some names there that didn't get All-Stars. So there's 5 of them there. 2 of them Dublin, 1 of them Mayo, 1 of them Roscommon and 1 of them Kerry. So that's a quite interesting kind of angle to look at as well.
It certainly is. We have a couple of comments in here from Denise, who does definitely agree, I think, with your take on O'Donoghue. Denise here, good to have you back. She says, good evening. And then she says, brilliant to see Ryan O'Donoghue being nominated to end the season in the preliminary quarterfinals and finish overall top scorer is outstanding. If Mayo made it a step further, he would have been considered. I may be biased, but Ryan's talent is insane. No, he's an outstanding Gaelic footballer. Serious talent. I think you could use the same argument for Sam Mulroy, though. Like, I remember in the Leinster final against Dublin, I don't think Sam Mulroy missed a free that I seen anyway. And everything that he was required to do for Louth, he pretty much did. That's kind of why I put Mulroy in my team. I think I was looking at being like, this guy has literally, and it's not just this season, it's what he's done continuously from when they were a Division 4 side up until the present day. I've no doubt that he would have been a manager in that dressing room, managing to, you know, make sure that the standards are being increased and that everything around Louth GAA is being increased. And if you go up to the Centre of Excellence now, it's a beautiful building, lovely pitches. Like the whole standards around Louth Gaelic football are getting better. And I've no doubt that people like Mulroy are crucial in this. And that's kind of, I took that into consideration as well. Like, he's a real captain for them. So, yeah, I look, personally, I'm happy with Lennon in. I'm happy with Turbot in. The main thing that I seen was Turbot did have a couple of games where he was quiet, a couple of games where he didn't influence the game really for Armagh. And one of those games was the All Ireland final. And like, my thing is I don't think Mulroy had any game for Louth in which he didn't influence the game massively. I don't think Ryan O'Donoghue had any game for Mayo in which he didn't influence the game massively. And I think just because your team carry you over the line, I'm not sure that you should get the same pass that, say, Shane Walsh won't have got and Damien Coleman won't have got, because people will say, oh, he did nothing in the All-Ireland final. Well, say Rob Finnerty had stayed on and carried Galway to the final. Does that mean that Walsh gets an All-Star? Like, if that's how we're playing things, I personally, look, again, I've got nothing against her, but my thing is, if you're an All-Star, you're the best of the best. Like, you literally were the best corner forward in the country this season. Every day you went out, every game you went out, every minute that you were on that pitch, you were a threat. That's my criteria for it. So I would actually lean more to Mulroy and maybe even O'Donoghue.
The thing is, though, Séamus, if you're looking at it from a statistical point of view, Conor Turbot was the second best forward in the country if you're going top scorers for play. Because Paul Conroy is a midfielder, so he was only behind Conor Callan this season. So you have to argue Conor Turbot has had an outstanding season and does deserve an All-Star.
No, he has.
With Mulroy, my thing with Mulroy is, and he's been outstanding for Louth over the last few years, don't get me wrong, 1-6 from play this season, though. Is that really enough to constitute an All-Star? I know excellent on the freeze, but
I would say Mulroy clearly to me is more the Michael Murphy type. He's more of the kind of drop into midfield, get his hands on the ball. He's involved at every stage of the play for Louth. And he wasn't parked in on the square that much this season. They definitely brought him around the midfield. They definitely had him involved in the build-up play. And then they were very much reliant on him to convert every free that he took. And I just think when you look at this situation, I think if you look at this team, the All-Star team, the majority of these players, if you were to remove them from their teams this season, I think if you were to remove Oisin Gallen from Donegal, if you were to remove Craig Lennon from Louth, if you were to remove Dylan McHugh from Galway, Paul Conroy from Galway, John Maher from Galway, Niall Morgan from Tyrone, I think there'd be huge setbacks to that team. Turbot was amazing, don't get me wrong. And I'm not disputing him being in the side. I amn't. He's very much Craig Lennon-esque for me, that I'm like, I can fully understand why someone put him in. I'm just explaining why I tipped to Mulroy. Because I just think if you take Mulroy out of Louth, I think it has so much bigger of an impact than if you took Turbot out of Armagh.
Yeah, very interesting points. And I definitely agree with you on that. But is it just the case that Louth don't have enough forwards other than Mulroy and Armagh just do?
That definitely plays into it. Because Armagh have a deeper squad. And, you know, they could turn to maybe a Ross McQuillan, a Jason Duffy, Aidan Nugent, even players like Keane McConville didn't get a look in this season. Like, they are stacked when it comes to the talent that they have. Look, as I said, I've no issue with him being in the side. Absolutely no issue at all with him being in the side. Like, there's players for me, like, if someone had to put Damien Comer in, for example, I would be like, how on earth? If someone had to put David Clifford in this season, I would have been like, how on earth? But Conor Turbot, I fully understand why he's in the team. I just didn't pick him in my team. I didn't pick Craig Lennon. I didn't pick Niall Morgan. And I've regretted the Morgan decision slightly. Turbot Turbott's one I can fully understand why people picked him. But me personally, personal preference went for Mulroy.
Do you feel bad? Do you feel bad for Blaine Hughes though? Both the Niall Morgan pick.
Yeah, of course. I know. I went for Hughes in my team, but and I have huge respect for Blaine Hughes as well. Someone left a comment on my TikTok where I ran through the team about how Blaine Hughes missed out. I said all the stuff that you mentioned there about his kickouts, about his shot stopping, about the lack of goals that he conceded. It's even more impressive when you remember, like, he was dropped last season for an outfield player to play in goal. Like, how much of a setback that must have been for his confidence in his ability as a goalkeeper. And yet he still kept their head down, kept working hard. And when McGeeney eventually turned and called him, he was more than ready. I do think, like, that's why I'm talking about. I think you have to look at the journey of the player, of the person, and take that into account when you're thinking about where they've come from for this season. But I would, again, happily go with either of them. So we're going to move on then to talk about the Footballer of the Year. So, Footballer of the Year for 2024. I'm sure if you've seen this episode, you know who it is. But it was named as Paul Conroy from County Galway, the big midfielder. In the same year that he won his first ever All-Star, he was named as the Footballer of the Year. Now, you were mentioned there, Paul Conroy has had a sensational season. And, of course, the Young Footballer of the Year was named as well. And it's just genuine, but, like, we'll get to that next. But we'll first talk about Paul Conroy. And personally, let's have a bit of fun. I'm just going to state this from the outset. I'm happy with Paul Conroy winning. But we'll take a leaf out of Aaron Prendergast's book. Sell it to me. Why did Paul Conroy deserve Footballer of the Year?
I mentioned it before, and I'll say it again now, the second top scorer as a 35-year-old, and he definitely had the number on his back, and he played midfield as well for Galway for the majority of the time. 35 years of age, 216 in the championship, deserved it, and he was the ongoing influence in that Galway team. You might say the goal he got against Donegal was lucky. And he was lucky. It was a lucky bounce. And Matthew Hurley coming into the square helped a lot when that goal went in. But you can't deny the guy was so consistent for Galway this season. Shane Walsh was underperforming. Damien Comer was underperforming. Rob Beardsley got injured in the final. But he was the one guy, when he got the ball, he was driving at that Armagh defence. And, like, top scorer from play as well from midfield, deserved it. Absolutely deserved it. What I will say, though, if Barry McCambridge got Footballer of the Year, I wouldn't discard it at all. I think he had an outstanding year as well. It's one of those situations where it's not like a toxic environment and they're saying that, oh no, you're clearly wrong about this Footballer of the Year. If you argued Barry McCambridge would win Footballer of the Year, you wouldn't be wrong. If you argued Paul Conroy would be Footballer of the Year, you wouldn't be wrong either. Two of them are outstanding years. I just feel like Conroy just edged it because of the influence he had in the Galway team. And you mentioned about Armagh. There was a load of players stepping up for Armagh, including McCambridge, including Aaron McKay, including Aidan Farquhar, including Conor Turbot himself, including Blaine Hughes. For Galway, it seemed to be, for the majority of the time anyway, all going through Paul Conroy. And I think that's why he deserved to be Footballer of the Year for 2024.
Yeah, no, you definitely make your points very well. I think with something like this, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think you've got three players here for Footballer of the Year who all kind of specialised in different parts of the game. Like Barry McCambridge, his defending this season was just spectacular. Like, he's such a good man marker. He just sticks to his task, and he pretty much nullified anybody he went on this year. And then on top of that, he scored a fantastic goal against Roscommon, and then also scored a crucial goal against Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final. And then his performance in the final was really, really good on Shane Walsh. Like, he has stuck to his task all throughout the season. But then Paul Conroy, again, very different in terms of why he should win the Footballer of the Year. Because, as you said, everything for Galway seemed to go through Conroy, but then his finishing was sensational. As you said, second top scorer from in the championship. but then also opened the scoring in the All-Ireland final. Like, definitely popped up for Galway at big moments. And then John Maher. Like, I think you definitely have a serious case for John Maher as well in terms of his effectiveness. I think when you look at how Michael Darragh Macaulay won Footballer of the Year in 2013, like, John Maher has definitely done it the same way as Macaulay. He's just so important. He's the heartbeat of that Galway side. He gets on so much ball, and he's always linking it together. And in most of Galway's attacks in that All-Ireland final, John Maher had a hand in it. And he definitely deserved his nomination as well for the Footballer of the Year. Personally, I'm happy with Paul Conroy, but I fully understand why somebody would have gone with Cambridge, why somebody would have gone with John Maher. Now we're going to bounce right back to the All-Stars again. This time we're going to talk about hurling. So as you've seen, the hurling All-Star team was named as well. And the first thing I just want to throw to you, which is absolutely bonkers, there's not one Leinster Championship player in that All-Star team. And I'm not going to argue for 1 second that there should be a Leinster Hurling Championship player in that team. But I never, ever even let that sink into my head that that would be a reality. I think the one player that I could potentially make an argument for is Lee Chin. I don't know what on earth more Lee Chin could have done for Wexford. But looking at the team in front of me there, it's a pretty solid pick.
It is, yeah. I would have probably made a case for Roy O'Connor from Wexford. I think his scoring for play was absolutely outstanding this season. But obviously it was the three teams that turned up. And interesting stat as well across hurling and football. This is the first time since the All-Stars have been introduced that there's been no Kilkenny hurler or no Kerry footballer get an All-Star this season.
Wow.
That's the first time that's ever happened. So you could argue with changing of the guard there from the one core counties, whatever. To be fair, Kerry do play hurling a small bit as well. But look, the team itself, I think when you look at the football team, I think for the Niall Morgan Blaine Hughes pick, you could argue each way, and you could say that this guy deserved it. You wouldn't argue to say another guy deserved it. You would say both of them kind of deserve it, and there you go. With the hurling, though, there are a few controversial picks, in my opinion. Two in particular, in my opinion. Dan Morrissey, cornerback. Don't get me wrong, Dan Morrissey's an outstanding defender. The key thing is, though, I would have gone Conor Lean. I think he was outstanding for it, and as well as that, and this feeds into the corner forward position as well. Dan Morrissey got roasted by Brian Hayes, not once this year in the championship, twice. Dan Morrissey gets an All-Star, Brian Hayes doesn't. What's the reasoning behind that? And I feel like as well, Garrett Haggerty getting it a corner forward, that was totally out of the blue, and I don't agree with it. I don't think Haggerty did
mad as well. Like, seeing his name at corner forward, I'm like, when has he ever played there?
And people go after me for putting David Fitzgerald midfield or whatever. Literally, the GPA and whoever makes these All-Star awards put Garrett Haggerty in a position that he's never played before, I'd imagine.
They've done that a few times, though, haven't they? I remember they played, they put Colin Kavanagh at full back one year, I remember. I think that was 2018 that they put him in full back. Like, they've had a few mad picks where they just genuinely shoehorn someone in. Because they're just like, here. Yeah. He deserves them, throw him in.
The thing is, though, the big difference between Colin Kavanagh and Garrett Haggerty, and I'm not discounting the Colin Kavanagh pick, it was a bit wacky. Colin Kavanagh had an outstanding year for Tyrone as they reached the All-Ireland final last season. What did Garrett Haggerty offer in the semi-final for Limerick? We were both at the game. What did he offer? He didn't offer much, did he? And I would say,
brilliant job on him, I remember.
He did, actually, yeah. Outstanding. But I will say from the Haggerty. Exactly. But
he wasn't getting in over Hayes or McEnroe.
No, he wasn't at all. What I will say from the Haggerty point of view as well, the only performance that sticks out in my mind this year from a Garrett Haggerty point of view was the Munster final. Is one game in the championship enough to get an All-Star? Especially when a team don't get to the final.
No, I wouldn't say
No, I don't think it's enough. I think it's one of those picture like How on earth has that happened? Dan Morrissey has performed well in certain games this season, and more games than one or two, no doubt about it. But in the 2 games against Cork, he was found out. Let's be honest here, he was found out. So I would have kind of reservations about them. How on earth Brian Hayes didn't get Conor forward, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, outstanding so many times this season. Even in the All-Ireland final, he was struggling a small bit, but he still knocked over 2-3 points in that final. He was still a buzzing bee around that Cork full forward line, and given the clear full back line, had been nightmares in that as well. I don't know how he didn't get in. If you're not going to pick Brian Hayes, pick Lee Chin or Rory O'Connor, if you're going to go for scores for play or whatever. But you pick Hagerty? Really? I mean, Hagerty's an outstanding hurler, and he has been over the last few seasons, and he was hurler of the year in 2020 as well. Deserved accolade there. This wasn't deserved, unfortunately. And as for the quarterback, Dan Morrissey didn't deserve it. Was Conor Lean, in my opinion. I think he was one player for Clare that really stood up. But a lot of Clare fans are going on Twitter saying that they deserved more than 6 All-Stars. I do agree with that statement. I do think Conor Lean should have got in over Dan Morrissey. But there are other champions that have got in and around the number 6. Armagh football got 6 All-Stars. Cork in 2010 got 4 All-Stars. So I don't think that's... You can't say you're the All-Ireland champions. Oh, there you go, 7 and 8 All-Stars. It doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. Players have to earn it. So I think Clare fans kind of need to calm down in terms of that. But those are the 2 ones that I'd really disagree with. But the rest of the team, the 13 others, I would agree with. Maybe Mark Rogers above Aidan McCarthy. You could go both ways on that one as well. But overall, I think the 2 Limerick boys ahead of Hayes and Lean is the big ones.
Yeah, no, definitely. We have another guy who disagrees with here in the comments. Jack Nulty here says Kilkenny should have one. Jack, just out of pure interest, I'd love you to throw in who you think should have actually got one. And then we can debate it here live on the Weekend Review show. And then if you want to throw in why you think they would have got one. Me personally, I had some differences to that team. My team, I went, looking back at it here, posted just after the All-Ireland hurling final. I went with Nicky Quaid, then Adam Hogan, Owen Downey, Conor Lean, David McInerney, Rob Downey, and Kyle Hayes, David Fitz and Dara Fitz, Tony Kelly, Shane Barrett, Lee Chin, Aidan McCarthy, Shane O'Donnell, and Brian Hayes. That was my team.
Yeah.
Now I know David Fitz, because some people get real picky. Yeah. Some people get real sensitive about that, don't they? When you put David Fitz at midfield, even though he literally wore number 8 the entire season. I know he played at wing forward before you jump down our throats, but we'll stick him at midfield instead of putting Tony Kelly at midfield like the All-Star teams have done. Because say what you want, but David Fitz has actually played a fair few games at midfield over the course of his career. Tony Kelly is not at his best in midfield. He's at his best at centre forward. But yeah, what would you be thinking about other parts of the team? Like, personally, me looking at that, I'm happy with my team. Genuinely, there's nobody that I looked at on the official All-Star team and thought, God, how did I not have him in? I didn't actually have... I'd one from Leinster, and that was Lee Chin. But I mean, we'll talk about that. That's shockingly bad. Is that a serious low point in the Leinster Hurling Championship? Like, is this a serious low point in the Leinster Hurling Championship that we have no All-Stars in the All-Star team? Like, to think that, you know, how talented Kilkenny are, how talented Galway are, how talented Wexford are, you know, some of the players that Dublin have, like, that's a seriously talented team as well. And no All-Stars.
Yeah. But I will say, on my team I had 0 Leinster players as well. So that didn't shock me at all. I feel like with Kilkenny, and Jack argued there that Kilkenny players should get one at least. What I'll say about Kilkenny, against Wexford beat them from play in the Leinster Championship. Galway, okay, we'll count that out because they played a second team in that.
Carlo beat
Dublin,
them.
Carlo drew against them.
Oh, sorry, Carlo drew.
Yeah.
Felt like
a win, yeah.
Felt like a loss.
Felt like a loss, definitely. The Dublin game in Parnell Park, Dublin should have beat them that night.
I remember
Kilkenny had one good performance this season, and that was the Leinster final. Dublin just got shell shot by the goal, and kind of the dam broke after that.
Yeah, let's not talk about
The
that.
semi-final against Clare, their shooting accuracy was pathetic. It was pathetic. Let's not brush around it. It was pathetic when you look at the standard of Kilkenny hurling over the last few seasons. So, no, I do not agree that Kilkenny should have got an All-Star this season. And when you look at the semi-final against Clare, they won the game by 2 points, I think it was, in the end. But it looked very, very comfortable for Clare. Even when Kilkenny got the 2 goals, looked very, very comfortable from a Clare point of view. Kilkenny have gone...
I would argue one player, John Donnelly.
Possibly, but who would you put him above?
Haggerty.
Besides
Dan Morrissey, why not? Let's throw Donnelly in cornerback. Seems we're moving everybody around wherever we want. But, I mean, because I do remember Donnelly, particularly in that game at Parnell Park, when Dublin had Kilkenny on the ropes, especially after the Brian Hayes goal. I remember John Donnelly clipped over a few vital scores for Kilkenny when they really, really, really needed them. And I think without John Donnelly that day, I think Dublin beat Kilkenny in Parnell Park. He also tore us apart in the Leinster final. I do think John Donnelly definitely deserved to be in consideration. But as I stated there when I read my team, I didn't have him in.
Yeah, and even looking at the top scorers from play, John Donnelly wasn't on that list. And in the Leinster Championship as well. So I wouldn't have argued that in all honesty. Like, you look at the top scorers from play, Dave Fitzgerald was number 1, obviously. Fitzgibbon, Kelly, Shane Barrett all made the team. Conor McDonald and Rory O'Connor were joint second that didn't make the team. And you could argue Lee Chin as well. You could argue the 2 boys as well, McDonald and particularly Rory O'Connor. Because let's call a spade a spade. When Rory O'Connor got sent off against Clare, Wexford kind of fell apart after that. And he was kind of an influential player in that Wexford team. So I'm not saying Rory O'Connor deserved an All-Star, but I would say he deserved one over Garrett Haggerty anyway. Let's call a spade now. Lee Sheen was up there, Seamus Hardy was up there, Mark Rogers, and Alec Connolly was up there, but he got 4 goals and 11 points, which isn't that big, to be honest with you. I think there was a stat going around that only one of the overall top score of the top 10 overall scores lists in the hurling championship made into the team, and that was Mark Rogers. The rest of them didn't. Patrick Horton didn't, Lee Chin didn't, Donald Burke didn't, Aidan McCarthy, TJ Reid didn't at all as well. So again, we kind of have the same conversation about the football as well, but it's kind of dwindled a small bit as well. And added to that, I know we'll talk about the hurler of the year pick in a bit now, but Shane O'Donnell wasn't in the top score overall or the top score from play, and he's a full forward, and he's still got player of the year, which is quite an interesting statistic. So is it going down the route? But then again, I could see why Shane O'Donnell got it, unlike Garrett Haggerty. I could see where Shane O'Donnell got it because of his influence in getting on Clare attacks. Like the amount of assists he had this season, like the assists he made for Aidan McCarthy's goal in the final, while on one leg, was absolutely incredible. So I would feel, and he was one player, I think you described it after the other final, you just have to foul him to stop him. Yeah. So you could argue, you have to say that Shane O'Donnell deserved it in that kind of light, and you could ignore the stats in that regard. Haggerty, though, not sure.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. And so then we're in agreement that O'Donnell was fully deserving of his Hurler of the Year award. I think Shane O'Donnell was absolutely sensational. You said it there yourself. O'Donnell, just his influence on the Clare team is why he had to be Hurler of the Year. He was just absolutely unbelievable, a real leader for them at times where they really needed them. Just to be there in the stadiums as well and to see him like in the flesh, like running at defenders, as I said to you and as you repeated there, like you have to foul him to stop him. But then sometimes it's even difficult to just foul him. Like he's so strong and quick, and then the way he runs, it's so difficult to get in front of him and stay in front of him. And especially the Aidan McCarthy goal in the All-Ireland final, like that was all Shane O'Donnell who set that up for McCarthy, and McCarthy finished it well. But I think his absolute commitment, dedication, and his ability, he had to be Hurler of the Year for me this year. We actually haven't even talked about the club championship action yet, and we're 40 minutes in. So we're going to move a little bit quicker through this, and we're going to start with the headline results. So I picked out 3 headline results, 2 from Sunday and 1 from Saturday, and then we will run through the rest of the day's action. So starting with this one. Ballygunner 25 points, Doon 20 points. This was the Munster hurling quarter-final. Ballygunner, the Waterford hurling champions, beat Doon, the newly crowned Limerick hurling champions, and it was by 5 points. Ballygunner march on.
Yeah, and to be honest, Doon, with all the partying that they did last week, you have to give a lot of credit to them. They were ahead at half-time. You were thinking, are Ballygunner going to fall flat in their face here? But Ballygunner just do what Ballygunner do. They come back into the game. And even then, they didn't get hammered, Doon, at all. So you have to give them a lot of credit for even fighting back at the Ballygunner fight back, if that makes sense. It was a brilliant performance by them. Adam English, Darrell Dunham especially should be very proud of their display today. I didn't see much of the game. I was reporting on a game under 21 in Cork today. But from what I heard, Doon were outstanding. They were really, really good. Very good in the tackle. Very good up front as well. But Ballygunner, and we said it on my show last week when you were on that, if Ballygunner don't win the All-Ireland this year, with all the sides that fallen by the wayside, if they do not win the All-Ireland this year, it's going to be one that got away. It's as simple as that. Because you look at the talent that Ballygunner have, the history that they have, the fact they won the All-Ireland a few seasons ago with that Harry Ruddle goal against Ballyhale Shamrocks a few years back. Ballygunner have the aura to go on and win the All-Ireland. I feel like Lockmore Castleiney will be a tough test for them, but Doon are a very tough test and they still beat them by 5 points. So Lockmore Castleiney next for them. I feel like if they win that, they'll win Munster eventually, and then the All-Ireland, we'll have to see what happens after that.
Certainly. No, I think that, look, this was always going to be a tough test for them. Doon would have approached this game definitely with a bit of a, let's just give this a lash type attitude. I mean, I know that they were sensational to win, but like Darrell Donovan, even in his post-match interview after the Limerick game, after the Doon versus Napiershig final, like he was very much like, look, we're going to party and then we'll think about that. Ballygunner would have got through the Waterford final, had a couple of pints, went home, got a good night's sleep, and got ready for the next round. Ballygunner definitely have their eyes on the ultimate prize. And this was always going to be a tough test. They were behind at halftime. I predicted that they would dominate the second half and ultimately come out on top. And look, maybe they didn't dominate, but they certainly were in control for long periods and ultimately came out on top. And they carry on. I think they're going to take some stopping. St. Martin's as well. They are the Wexford hurling champions for 2024. They beat St. Anne's Rothangan 122 to 19 points. You were mentioning about the form of Rory O'Connor. We were talking about St. Martin's flair versus the grit and determination of St. Anne's Rothangan. The flair of St. Martin's ultimately came out on top.
Yeah, and according to the match reports, he scored 11 points today, Roy O'Connor. That would take his total to 379 in the Wexford Championship. Added to the fact he was the joint second top scorer for play in the All-Ireland series for his county as well. He's had an amazing year for his club and his county as well, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. St. Martin's were deserved winners today. They were on top of St. Anne's from the very low in this game. And you look at St. Martin's team across it, Jack O'Connor provided a good performance as well. Darren Codd, Kyle Furman, Jake Furman in midfield. They were excellent. They really were. They deserved the Wexford crown as well. They'll face Naas now in the Leinster quarter-final. Should be a tough game, but I feel like the fact they've won a title now and they'll go in fresh into a Leinster Championship off the back of a win 2 weeks prior, I think they'll be going in with a lot of confidence into Leinster now, and that's only good for Wexford teams. And credit has to go to the county board there for structuring it a bit differently this season. Let's see if it reaps towards it again in 2 weeks' time against Naas. But congratulations to St. Martin's, an exceptional achievement. St. Anne's were hanging to get to the final in the first place, and the performances they put in all year, they deserve a lot of credit for that. But it is St. Martin's Day and Rory O'Connor's Day indeed.
Certainly, and with the O'Connors, like, there's no doubt they're a threat. If they get past the banana skin, I'd say, that Naas will present them with, I think they could be a threat. If they get, because Wexford teams have struggled over the last few seasons to make a dent in the Leinster Championship, but certainly with Ballyhale gone, it does feel more open. Like, it felt more open last season when O'Loughlin Gales took them out. Thomastown have been sensational, but as I said, they don't have the same aura that Ballyhale had when they got to this stage of the season. Going to run through then the rest of Sunday's club results. So this is a roundup. I'm only going to run through the senior games that took place today. And obviously this is Matthew's. This is on Matthew's Instagram page. It has on the intermediate and the junior, though. Fair play, Matthew, for rounding all them up. Go give Gaelic Satsman a follow. If you somehow do not already. I'm going to run through the rest of the results. So the Leinster Senior Football Championship preliminary round, St. Lomans 2-17, Dunshaughlin 2-4. So and we both said St. Lomans, geez, they really beat the brakes off Dunshaughlin there. RD St. Mary's 3-14, Abbey Lara 2-8. So that's RD St. Mary's for Louth going into the next round. But we have to talk about Tinahilly beating Port Arlington 2-5 to 10 points. A Port Arlington side who just battered Portlaoise in the Laois final have now fallen at the first hurdle in the Leinster Championship to a Tinahilly side who was not expected to even win Wicklow.
Yeah, an exceptional achievement and a fair play to Tinahilly for doing that. Obviously, they didn't look like they'd win the Wicklow Senior Football Championship final at half time. Never mind the start of the season. So to go ahead and into the Leinster quarterfinals after beating Port Arlington, who would have been an experienced campaigner in this Leinster Championship, like, it's a brilliant achievement, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. Owen Darcy, I'm sure, was the forward for Tinahilly again, an exceptional forward for Wicklow and a very good forward for Tinahilly as well. Port Arlington, though, I feel like Séamus, I don't want to be a downer, this is a missed opportunity for them. With Kilmacud gone out of Leinster, this was a chance to take the Leinster Championship by the scruff of the neck. They failed. They lost against the Wicklow, no disrespect now, the Wicklow champions, and they could have got with easily a semi-final. And that was a poor performance from the Port Arlington point of view. But Tinahilly marched on, brilliant performance from them. St. Lomans against Dunshaughlin. I said that this game could go to extra time, and how wrong I was. I did say Lomans would win it, but Dunshaughlin absolutely got battered here. And I feel like Dunshaughlin have the likes of Conor Gray, Matthew Costello, Luke Mitchell, Rory Kinsella, all in their team. How on earth is Meath football so probably tactically inept once it comes to the club level and senior level? Mm-hmm. I have to do stats on this and their record in the Leinster Championship, but I feel like, Séamus, it's not going to look pretty on the post. It really isn't.
About pretty is a record against Dublin in the last 10 months. I can't remember the last time a Meath club actually went far into the club championship.
I feel, actually, to be fair, I think Ratholt reached the semi-final the year the Downs reached the Leinster final. I think that was the one year, but other than that, I can't think of any, to be honest. And I think it's going to be grim reading for Meath fans, especially. Like, you could say Cork hurling clubs are in a bad place, but at least that is against Limerick champions, the Clare champions, Tip, Waterford, let's face it, Ballygunner. Like, they're tough opponents. Meath are coming up against counties like Longford, Wicklow, Offaly, Carlow. This is worrying from a Meath point of view. It really is.
Well, it adds up, doesn't it? You're not doing anything at club level. You're not doing anything at county level either. Like,
it's true.
It just, like, you look at it as well, like, with the exception of a few, I mean, your club championship and how competitive it is and how then those clubs go on to perform in the All-Ireland Club Championships kind of signals where your county is heading. It's no surprise that Derry got a lot better when Glen started reaching the All-Ireland final and everything like that. Like, those things tend to kind of go hand in hand. And I'm not talking about a flash in the pan. Like, I'm not talking about when St. Gall's came from absolutely nowhere and won the All-Ireland Club Championship in 2010. Like, that was a very good club side who played extremely well for a year. But they didn't come back the next year. Like, Glen, Bridget's, these type of teams have, coming back year after year. And in Roscommon, you have Pádraig Pearses, who've been there for how many years? Galway, Currafin, Mike Cullen, like, these teams have been really, really good now for a few years. That translates to county success. Meath haven't laid a finger on anybody in the club championship. Like, they haven't got close to winning the Leinster club championship in a long time. So, like, and there's no excuses for it either. Like, Mullinachta beat Kilmacud Crokes. Tinahilly beat Port Arlington. There's clubs constantly outperforming their station multiple times. So for me, they really need to look at this. And Robbie Brennan really needs to look at this. There's a man who knows how to get the best out of a club side. A lot of people say, we had Shane Walsh. Okay, he had a very talented squad, he still got the best out of them. He had a lot of big personalities in that dressing room, and he still got them all singing from the same hymn sheet. The example I always use when people talk about Kilmacud Crokes is 2015 on paper, Parnell's had the best team in the Dublin Championship. What did Parnell's do? Nothing. Because they didn't have a manager who was able to make them sing off the same hymn sheet. We're going to run down through the rest then. The Limerick Senior Football Championship final, Adair won 10, Father Casey's 8 points. So Adair seized their time after finally beating Newcastle West and claimed the Limerick crown. The Sligo Senior Football Championship replace, Coolera Strandhill, 8 points. St. Malaise Gales, 7 points. The Kildare Senior Hurling Championship final then, Naas 320, Maynooth 12 points. Naas battering Maynooth, continuing to prove that they are just way above the standard in Kildare. The Munster Senior A LGFA semi-finals, Comera Rangers won 8, Iota won 7, and Castle Island Desmonds 2-12, Kilmurray Iberkin won 6. The Ulster Senior LGFA semi-finals then, Lurgan 2-14, Termon 5 points, and Clonairon 2-10, St. Ergnitz 1-10. The Connacht Senior LGFA semi-final, Westport 2-10, Owen Rua 1-11. The Leinster Senior Camogie semi-final, St. Vincent's 1-11, St. Killian's 1-4, and Pilltown 2-10, Glenbarntown 2-9. So those are the results from Sunday. I'm going to run through the headline result from Saturday and then run through the rest of the results, and that will bring this episode to an end. So starting off with the headline result, in my opinion, from Saturday, Matthew, obviously feel free to disagree. Errigal Kieran, 12 points. St. Eunan's, 10 points. This was in the Ulster football preliminary round. Errigal Kieran edging out an extremely tight contest against the Donegal champions Unions, and Errigal march on to the next round.
Well, I will say about Errigal in this game, they're extremely lucky boys. They got the fright of their lives in this one. Unions were well worthy of the victory until maybe a bit of lapse in concentration in the last few minutes let Errigal back into it. Ben McDonald got 2 late points in this one, and Tommy Canavan finished it off, obviously with a point towards the end of it. But let's not lose sight of it. Shane O'Donnell for St. Eunan's was absolutely superb in this game. 100% shot accuracy, 4 points over the bar. He was the guy that was taking the charge for St. Eunan's in this one and trying to get them over the line. Darragh Canavan didn't score anything in this game, and Errigal still got over the line. So, and Rory wasn't his best. That maybe is a good thing, yeah. I feel like they'll beat Cargan in the quarterfinal because I don't think Antrim football is as high as it was. And I feel like the semi-final would have been an easier one than the other side of the draw. You look at it now, they'll face, if they beat Cargan, they'll face Clonairon from Armagh or Sean O'Leary's Newbridge from Derry in the semi-final. So I feel like that's an easier kind of a game rather than a wide Grim's game.
From Kilcoo
and Scottstown. Mm-hmm. So I feel like this is a chance that Errigal Kieran have to grab at both hands. And Niall Morgan mentioned it last night on GAA Live on RTE that Tyrone clubs for all their fans saying that we wouldn't have it any other way. This is a brilliant championship. It's one of the most entertaining in the country. They haven't had a serious run in the senior Ulster Championship. And Errigal now have a huge chance to do so this season. I know Trinnick reached the semi-final last year, losing to Scottstown, but I'm talking about Errigal grabbing the chance with both hands of reaching a final of Ulster. Not a semi, a final. I feel like they have the players to do it. Can they execute it though?
I think they do. When you look through their team on paper, like they're strong in key areas of the pitch. Like their midfield partnership with Ben McDonnell and Joe Goose, Aidan McCrory at fullback, Cormac Quinn in the defence there as well. And then they've got Rory Canavan, Darragh Canavan, and Peter Hart in their forwards. Like, they're seriously strong throughout different parts of the pitch. I predicted that they would finally be the Tyrone club to break, the streak of clubs failing to do back-to-back. And look, they beat Trillick this year in the final. So definitely, wasn't stupid to believe that they were capable of doing that. Look, they just fell short on that particular day. But look, they're back here in the Ulster quarterfinal. I think Cargan will be a lot trickier than we would originally think. Cargan gave a lot of problems to Glen last season. A lot of problems. And it only really opened up for Glen when Tomas McCann got a very debated red card. So we have a question in here for you, Matthew. I'll put this one to you. Kid Cuddy here. He says, who you think is the favourite to win Ulster between Errigal, Scottstown or Kilcoo?
Right now, looking at the panels at the moment, I think Scottstown are the favourites.
Scottstown.
Because you look at the players that they have right now. Rory Began, Darren Hughes, Kieran Hughes, Conor McCarthy, Jack McCarran, Shane Carey. That crop of players should be doing a lot better in Ulster. And I feel like this might be their time this year. Ryan O'Toole, another player I forgot to mention. But you could forget, like that's like half the team that are proven inter-county stars. So I feel like Scottstown are the side to do it. Kilcoo, they have a good coach there now this year in Carl Lacey. They trashed Burren in the down final as well. I feel like they'll be a tough team to beat, but I feel like Scottstown, the players that they have, they should be winning more. I just feel like this year could be their time.
I can see where you're coming from. I'm personally going to lean to Kilcoo, just based off their experience of having got over the line previously. Kid Cuddy as well, if you want to throw in the comments below who you think is going to win out of Errigal, Scottstown and Kilcoo. We will move on with the rest of the games that took place on the Saturday. So we don't have actually that many that took place on the Saturday. As you said, it's starting to calm down just a little bit. We will give a little segment to the Fermanagh Senior Football Championship final replay. Aaron Gales Bleak 113 and Enniskillen Gales 1-9. So again, very tight contest between these two sides. It obviously finished a draw the first time. Now, Aaron Gales Bleak put a bit of separation between them. We were mentioning it was either the Kelms against Conor Love, and the Kelms came out on top. Aaron Gales Bleak win.
Yeah, brilliant win for them, obviously. And the Kelms, they drove this victory on for them. It's their first, I think, Fermanagh Championship I heard on Twitter since the 80s. So it's a brilliant achievement for them, brilliant for all involved, and congratulations to them for winning this championship. They've beaten the Cavalry in this Fermanagh Championship. Like Derry Gonley didn't win it, Enniskillen Gales didn't win it. They would have been the two main kind of dangers for them. But Aaron Gales Bleak, they got over the line. Fair play to them. Worthy champions. And the Kelms, what a year they've had for Fermanagh in Division 2 and for Aaron Gales Bleak, the older club in the Fermanagh Championship. So they'll play Scottstown next week. I feel like that's going to be a difficult assignment for them, but I'm sure they're delighted just to win this Fermanagh Championship, and well done to them again.
Certainly. I think that game will definitely be an interesting one to see how close Aaron Gales Bleak get to Scottstown, because I do think, look, on paper, Scottstown definitely have the strongest team. But I think when you look at it, they have struggled to perform to the level that they're capable of the past few seasons. Kid Cuddy here says, agree with Matthew, think Scottstown are primed for it, and with Glenn and Stockneil out, the door is open. Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is definitely a good time to go for it. There's no doubt about it. Like this, it's opened up for them. Kilcoo, obviously, I think will be thinking the same. However, I think it's definitely, in my opinion, with no disrespect to Errigal, I think Errigal will go into that final, regardless of who they're playing. I think they'll go in as underdogs. I'm going to do a segment for this bit as well. The Connacht Senior LGFA semi-final. Kilkerran, Clonberne, get ready for this. 3 goals and 19 points. Glencar, Manor Hamilton, 0 goals and 0 points. So if this was a PlayStation game, the player playing as Glencar, Manor Hamilton is still trying to figure out what buttons to press to get their characters to shoot. How on earth do you play for an hour and fail to score? Mate, I have been on the wrong end of some absolute batterings. Like, genuinely, like, why am I still playing this sport type batterings? And we still scored. Like, we still scored something. Like, how do you score nothing? And how did you win your championship? And how good are Kilkerran?
I will say this, Séamus, a kind of embarrassed to say, my club were the Fela back years ago. We were playing RD St. Mary's from Louth, coincidentally enough. And it was a 30-minute game, 15 minutes aside. And we got beaten 2-18 to no score. So, yeah, I kind of know.
Game, man, that's what, a score every minute and 20 seconds or something?
Yeah, that is, yeah. It's incredible. Yeah, it is. Yeah, to be fair, our club are a junior A club in Cork Pro, but we're junior A clubs. Are the same areas are one of the top clubs in Loud. So there's a bit of golf there. So, but look about enough about me and more about the college championship here. Look, it just probably shows that Leitrim LGFA isn't as high a standard as Galway LGFA, unfortunately. I know they won the intermediate this year. They will be considered one of the surprise packages or packets of the year, the Leitrim LGFA team, but it looks like their championship is way off Kilcurran and Clonburn. And what I will say about Kilcurran and Clonburn, out of the All-Ireland champions last season in the club championship, one remain, and that's Kilcurran and Clonburn. Dixborough are gone, St. Thomas's are gone, Watty Grimslane are gone. They're the only ones remaining, and they look to be pummeling nearly everybody in this. And I think they're playing Westport now in the Connacht final. I think they could beat them quite handily as well. And I think it is going to be it's Connacht against Ulster in the semi-final, so they'll play Clonairon or I've got blank now. Clonairon or if there's another team in that final as well. I have to double check, but sorry, it's Lurgan or Clonairon in the semi-final. I feel like they'll beat them as well. So I feel like the only team that can stop this Kilcurran-Clonburn road train is going to be Kilmacud Crokes. Yeah. I think that's the only team that's going to stop them. And other than that, I feel like it's going to be Kilcurran-Clonburn to lose. You look at their team though. The two Ward sisters in Nicola and Louise. You have the Noon sisters in Ava, Hannah and I've gone blank. I've gone blank. It's a lot.
The Noon sisters.
The Noon sisters.
Lindsay Noon.
Lindsay Noon. That's the other third. That's the third one. Yeah. So you have the Noon sisters. You have the Ward sisters there. You have Ailish Morrissey. That's like an inter-county side, to be honest. And Lid the Boot as well, I think, is in that team as well. Kilcurran, Clonburn, and there's a few others. In and around, Chloe Beskell is in and around the Galway team as well. That's a superb club side, and I'm gonna say they're gonna win a fourth All-Ireland in a row, aren't they?
I think so. I personally think only Kilmacud can stop them. Kilmacud were taken to an inch of their life by St. Sylvester's in the Dublin final. A Sylvester side that hasn't won the Dublin Club Championship. So, like, look. And then on the other side, you've got Kilcairn battering everyone. But it doesn't matter when they lock horns in the final. It quite simply does not matter. That would be a once-off game, a final. You rip up the form book. You rip up everything that you had notes-wise going into that final. And you see who would come out on top in a once-off game. So running through the rest of the results, to the final results that we have here to run through is from the Munster Senior Camogie semi-finals. Trua Clonlara 310, Clonulty Rossmore 13 points, and Galtier 216, Newcastle West 9 points. Yep.
One more result. The Westmeath Senior Hurling Championship final. Castletown Gilligan 127, Lochlean Gales 217.
Very good. Yeah, Castletown, we said they were the favourites, and that was the game, of course, which got abandoned after 12 minutes for the tough conditions. Replayed, Castletown ultimately came out relatively comfortably on top. So that's another episode in the books, guys, here on Cluiche. I just want to give a massive thank you to Matthew for coming on for another episode. Big thank you as well to Denise, to Jack Nulty, and to Kid Cuddy for getting involved in the comment section as well. Love the questions coming in, guys, every week. So that's another episode in the books. We'll be back here on Cluiche next weekend for another weekend review. Until that day comes, take care. Enjoy the week.